So we are going to Wellington, where there are some fresh questions this morning about Wellington councillors and whether they were funding nice things like cycleways over fixing water pipes. We spoke to Fleur Fitzsimons this morning, who's a councillor who was at this 2021 meeting that everyone is talking about online. She says, yes, we doubled the funding, we put a whole bunch of money into cycleways, but we didn't not fund water as well. Tamitha Paul was a Wellington City councillor also at that meeting, and is now MP for Wellington Central from the Greens and joins us live this morning. Tamitha, good morning.
Morning, Orion. How's it going?
Good, thank you. So, can we clear this up? We'll start with the cycleway situation. Did you push that amendment? Did you get extra funding for cycleways at that meeting in 2021?
Yes.
Okay. Was there a vote at all on funding for water infrastructure for wastewater?
At that meeting?
Yeah.
So what that meeting did is it affirmed the decisions we had already made around water, which was to give Wellington Water the maximum amount that they asked for that they could deliver. So yes, but it wasn't explicitly. If you were to go and look at the minutes of that meeting, you wouldn't see wastewater there, because it was, that's just how long-term plan processes work.
So did you give Wellington Water all the money that they asked for, or only all the money you thought that they could deliver? You made a judgment on how good they were at delivering it.
No, Ryan, actually, I didn't make that judgment. Our officers and Wellington Water made that judgment. So what they do is they give us a whole bunch of options for investment, different amounts of numbers. And what they said is option 3 is the highest amount that we can deliver. Option 4 is just an amount, the most extreme amount you could give, but there were real concerns that it could be delivered. And what Wellington Water were telling us at the time is that if you give us more than we can deliver in terms of fixing, maintaining and upgrading the pipes, it will go on things like comms. And I don't think anyone around that table was prepared to hike up the rates for a communications campaign.
So it becomes very crucial how much money you are throwing at organisations, right? And you don't want to be wasting any money.
Yeah, so the point should be, Brian,
so it's true.
The amount of money that Wellington Water has ever asked for since 2021, they have gotten it. They have never been rejected.
But they were in this case. You've just said that they did ask for more, but you gave them less because you didn't think that they could deliver it.
No, what happened was, and it was asked for an option to be prepared around the maximum amount that we could give them that could not be delivered. I want to emphasize that point. It says,
but that's a judgment, right? That's a judgment that
not be delivered.
Okay, but that's a judgment that the staff at council made that you then agree with by voting for that.
So you wanted us to hike the rates up for no point and take people's money that couldn't be delivered on what they expected it to be then?
Well, I think this comes to the point that the argument, which is less to do with this particular meeting, but generally. The rates were hiked up because of overall spending, not because of any one vote on wastewater, etc. The question is, and you've referenced when people have asked you about this, the spending on cycleways is like spending on any other infrastructure, like housing or like the library, for example. Do you see cycleways as important as wastewater fixing pipes?
That's acting as if that was a decision that was to be made. I think cycleways and transport infrastructure are important, yes. I think wastewater is also important, which is why we have given the most money of all councils, because this is the thing that's frustrating.
Yeah, but we don't have infinite money.
Finish, please, Ryan. I'm answering your question. If you look at the history of councils and how much they've given to Three Waters, there is no doubting or denying that the last 2 councils, bar this one who are yet to set their long-term plan, have increased the spend on wastewater dramatically compared to the past. So that's why I don't understand why there could be any frustration with those decisions.
Kudos to you. No doubt they need it. But the question remains, what's more important, flushing the toilet or riding a bike?
What's more important, the Central Library, sludge minimisation, all of the other hundreds of millions of dollars, the Candala pool, I think the question you should be asking, Ryan, as a responsible journalist, if you want to look at that council, is why did nobody put up an amendment on option 4, the maximum amount to increase Wellington Water, including those people who are vocal now about that meeting? And the reason is because it can't be done and it would have wasted ratepayers' money completely. So this argument of what's more important, cycleways or pipes, is just a stupid argument, because that's not the way that councils make decisions. Not any council around the country at all, period.
But they do. That is fundamentally what they do. They make decisions about priorities. You don't have infinite money. Unless you charge ratepayers like wounded bulls, you don't have infinite money, so you need to prioritise what you're spending money on. That's why I'm trying to ask the question, what is your list, to get an idea of what is the list of priorities?
And you saw at that meeting what the list of priorities were. It was investment in sludge minimisation, which would relieve the pressure on our wastewater system. It was 446 million for 400 million for housing upgrades. It was the central library, which was 187 million. It was lots of different things. And when we made each of those decisions, and including cycleways, when we made each of those decisions, it wasn't a question of, is this thing taking away from another thing? It was, do we want to fund these things and can they be delivered? And the reason that cycleways are important is because, one, they make the roads wider and more accessible for buses, but also they protect people from being hit by cars. And that is important to me. And I know we probably have different views on that, but I was the climate change spokesperson at the time. So that was important for me to put that motion forward, which, by the way, was only rephasing money in the budget and was not adding a significant amount. Because if you look at the original proposal by Andy Foster, it was relatively similar in terms of cycleway investment.
All right, Tamitha, I appreciate you coming on this morning, and I appreciate you giving us your view and your version of events. Thank you very much for doing so.